In this video, we're going to look at adjusting some basic user preferences. Not a lot, just to give you an idea of where you would find your preferences to change, and a couple of things I think you should change to make your life a little easier. Now, on a Macintosh, you'll find your preferences located directly under the words Premiere Pro in the drop-down menu. And if you're on a Windows machine, it would be located under the Edit menu at the very bottom of the list. Let me go ahead and open up the preferences, and it really doesn't matter which one I click on, as it opens up one universal window that has all of these elements in it. But we're going to go ahead and just change a few things and give you an idea how it works. So the first thing I might change is the duration of my video transitions. By default, it's 30 frames. And for most video, 30 frames equals 1 second. Now, there are some cameras that shoot 24 frames a second, and there are many parts of the world where the standard is 25 frames per second. So in the US, I might change this to 15 if I want half-second dissolves and half-second transitions. And in Europe or Australia or most places around the world, I may change it to 12 if I want a half-second video transition. I'm going to go ahead and change this to 15 since I'm working in the US with 30 frames per second video. Now, with audio, it's a little bit different. We're not dealing with frames, we're actually dealing with real time, because that's how Adobe thinks with sound, because it's dealing with audio by the sample level. So if I want a half a second dissolve, I'll simply type in 0.5. Now, don't worry, you can always change this while you're editing, and even once you've edited a transition into your program, you can still change its duration after the fact. Another thing I'd like to point out is under Appearance, there's an option to make the screen lighter or darker. Now, if you make it lighter, it is going to be easier to see, but realize if you're sitting in front of this screen for 6, 8, 10 hours at a time, a brighter screen is going to cause greater eye fatigue. So as a general rule of thumb, I like to keep it at its default setting, and sometimes even a little bit darker. Now I can truly focus on the images in the program as opposed to the program's interface. One last change that I want to show you within the preferences is under autosave. By default, Premiere Pro will save a version of your show every 15 minutes with up to 20 versions saved. Now, if you're new to editing or you edit quickly and you forget to save, I like to change this time from 15 minutes down to 5. And you can increase the maximum number of projects, but 20 is a good number because that's going to let you go back in time about 100 minutes or 2 hours. Just make sure you have automatically saved projects checked, because with this unchecked and a system crash, you'll lose everything. But don't worry, it is checked by default. Now, I'm not going to go into all the other preferences at this time. We'll learn about them in context when we need them. Let's go ahead and press OK to accept these preference changes. There's one other preference I wanted to talk about, but I need to show you how it currently works so you can decide what will work best for you. And that's when, for instance, you're inside your project pane and you double-click on one of these folders, which we also call bins. Now, if I just do a standard double-click, it will open up a new window for the contents of that folder. And to me, this is pretty messy. I really wanted to keep my screen neat. So what they've done is they've allowed you to use some modifier keys. And let me go ahead and close this. And if I hold down the Command key when I double-click, you'll notice that it will open up that folder, but it will attach it very neatly in the same window that it came from. If I close it to click on the X, you'll notice something has happened. I've lost my project pane, because what's happened is it's substituted the new folder for the old folder. This will probably happen to you at some time or another, and I wanted to do this intentionally because if you lose one of these panes, don't panic. You can always go to this drop-down menu that says Window, find the missing element you're looking for, and select it. And I can slide it from the right side where it opens up back to where it belongs. If you look closely, we're still looking inside the folder that I had double-clicked on. And if I want to step back into the actual master project, I can simply click on this small up arrow inside the folder, and it will take me up a level. Now, the reason I went to this depth is that I personally don't like these floating windows that pop up. And you can change a preference so that every time you double-click, you don't need to hold down a modifier key, and it will keep your screen nice and clean. Let's return back to our preferences now that we understand how it works normally. Go ahead and select General. Now, if you're on a Windows machine, remember, it's at the bottom of the Edit menu command. And you'll notice here where it says Bins, I'll refer to these as folders occasionally because they look like a folder. These are the default options. So instead of opening a new window, when I double-click, I want to just have it open in either Place or open a new tab. What I like is to open a new tab. That way I always have my main project window available to me, and as I click on each of these folders, it opens them up individually, and I can simply slide back and forth. Let's select Open New Tab as the default, hit OK, and take a look at how it now works. So there, we've opened up this folder, but if I scroll back, I still have my main project bin. So those were some basic preference changes and a little bit of how the system thinks and works. As we continue through the course, you'll learn a lot more preferences that can enhance your workflow and make your editing faster.